Okay, good afternoon to one and all. Today I would like to present on the topic sustainable management of irrigation tanks in Karnataka. Okay. To have a better introduction of this topic, okay, we must know that which are the different sources of irrigation for agriculture in Karnataka. Okay, groundwater and surface water, they form the major sources of irrigation in case of Karnataka. In case of groundwater, the major sources used to be bore wells and wells. Okay, wells used to be open wells. And in case of surface irrigation, the major source used to be canals and tanks. Okay, since we are concentrating more on irrigation tanks, we need to know about irrigation tanks. Okay, irrigation tanks are the small reservoirs which used to impound the runoff water. Irrigation tanks, they used to be the common pool resources, in the sense they are the common property. It will not belong to anyone. That means it used to be nobody's property, or we can say that it used to be everybody's property. Whenever any of the resources used to be common pool, they used to face a problem called as tragedy of commons. Okay, if we look into the historical perspectives of irrigation tanks in Karnataka, in the 1980s, Karnataka had around 40,000 irrigation tanks. And it used to cover, okay, command area of 6.84 lakh hectares, and which used to spread across 32,000 villages. Okay, that was the prominence or importance that irrigation tank was having in Karnataka during 1980. Whereas in the present day, irrigation tanks, they are not having that importance. That means tanks are degraded, and actual irrigated area by these tanks have reduced drastically. Now we could say that it hardly accounts for 2.4 lakh hectares, okay, which used to be less than the 35% of the design command under tank irrigation. Even the estimates given by Govindaya during 1994 also indicates the same. That is, out of total tanks, around 31% of the tanks are defunct, in the sense they have stopped functioning. And out of those 31% of non-functioning tanks, 80% used to be medium and of small size. We may like to know the reasons for decline or reduction in number of irrigation tanks. Okay, the important reasons are siltation of the tanks, which used to be a most common problem in case of irrigation tanks because of lack of management. Okay, improper maintenance, change in the land use, vegetative cover, either it may be in the catchment area or it may be in the command area, encroachment made by majority of the farmers in the anticipation of earning profit from agriculture in the tank bed and in the tank catchment. And you know that agriculture is at the mercy of nature. That means variation in precipitation will also have an equal say, okay, in reduction in number of irrigation tanks. And the most important aspect is the lack of community participation. That means since the heterogeneous mass used to be there, participation on a collective mode among the members of village is a big task, okay, which not used to be there more often, and it is also one of the reason for reduction in number of irrigation tanks. And the government has intervened in the management and maintenance of irrigation tank. Because of that reason, villagers, they thought that they don't have any role to play now. The management and maintenance of tank is the responsibility of government. Let it look after. We will not bother much about it. It has paved a way for what we call it as breakdown of traditional informal institutions which villagers used to have then. Okay, so all these factors, they have paved a way for what we call it as reduction in the number of irrigation tanks. And a reduction in irrigation tank is considered to be as a cause of concern, especially in the era of climate change. Okay, climate change in agriculture is very apparent. As you all know that now the major source of irrigation either in India or in Karnataka. It used to be from groundwater, which used to be very apparent. That means you can easily observe how best the climate change has made an impact, okay, in case of groundwater, because earlier, during 1960s, 1970s, the major source of irrigation for agriculture used to be the surface irrigation. It used to be canals, it used to be tank. But now it is not so. The dependence on borewell has increased, okay. The situation was so wherein farmers used to cultivate their crops using shallow dug wells. Shallow dug wells disappeared. Later it has paved a way for dug cum bore well. That means within open well, farmer used to drill a bore well. And later on, a sort of transition was observed wherein shallow bore wells came into picture. Now, a deep bore well, which used to be of depth more than 1,500 feet, okay, which is really a cause of concern, and it gives a clear picture that how climate has played a vital role in this transition, okay. Increase in borewell failure is also one of the indicator. That means very frequent failures of borewell we could see. It may be initial or premature. Initially means once the farmer drill the borewell, it will not going to function. Okay, it will not going to yield any water. We call it as initial failure. Premature failure means it will going to yield for some time and it will stop functioning thereafter. Okay, we call it as premature failure. The number of both initial and premature failure have increased in the recent past. Okay, the depth of getting irrigation water from borewell has increased. Okay, it is also an indication, and reduced life of borewell. That means earlier borewell used to function for at least 10 years, but now not more than 2 or 3 years, especially in hard rock areas. We could see that all these are considered to be as an important indicator of climate change in the context of groundwater. Why I am saying all these things is because on one hand, we are totally dependent on groundwater. Groundwater availability, it mainly depends on the recharge, because farmers are thinking about discharge of water while relegating the recharge of groundwater. Recharge will going to take place only when we used to conserve our tank. That means tank irrigation is said to have a positive externality. In the sense, if we maintain, manage tanks, then automatically groundwater used to get recharged. Okay, once groundwater gets recharged means automatically borewell used to function. That means we could say that management of irrigation tanks is very crucial in functioning of groundwater. That we call it as positive externality. That means we are doing something and its effect used to be on some other thing, okay, and it is bearing a positive or favorable impact, okay, hence it is called as positive externality. And supposing if we maintain and manage tanks properly, then farmers even they could get what we call it as silt, which used to be a nutritive material which they can use for their farming business. Okay, now we would like to know what has happened to various sources of irrigation in Karnataka under the heading that is a trends and transition. Okay, if you could see in the first figure, the data pertains to the various sources of irrigation. Okay, that means area irrigated by different sources. Okay, it runs from 1970 to 2017, and this information I have collected from N. Nagraj, okay, and which clearly indicates that the proportion of canal irrigation, you could see that proportion of canal irrigation, it has exhibited as stagnancy. Okay, it has exhibited a sort of stagnancy between the time period 1995 to 2010. Thereafterwards, you could see that there is a marginal decline in canal irrigation. You know that canal used to be the major source of irrigation, that too major irrigation, okay. And you could see borewell has exhibited an exponential rise. That means it clearly reflects that now agriculture mainly depends on borewell irrigation, okay. That means farmers are day by day farmers are relegating surface irrigation. Okay, and if you could see tanks and open wells, okay, tanks have exhibited exponential decline, which is a cause of concern. Okay, exponential decline, you could see that now if you could see that hardly 4% of the total irrigated area is through tanks. Okay, which used to form a major chunk in the past, now it occupies hardly 4%, which is really a cause of concern. Okay, and open wells in the recent past, they are disappearing. The sole reason is that they will not get water, supposing if they go for open wells. Now farmers, they have started relying on what we call it as deep bore wells. Okay, that used to be the trend in the various sources of irrigation. Supposing if you could see the transition, okay, a marginal decline you could see in the share of total irrigated area by canal, okay, which used to be 49% during 1990s. Now a marginal decline you could notice, which used to be 40% during 2017. Okay, in case of tanks, supposing if you consider which was 29% then, now it has become 4%. Okay, and you could see that an exponential increase in the share of irrigated area under borewell irrigation, which forms 56%. That means more than 50% of the share of total irrigated area is under borewell irrigation. That clearly reflects that our dependence, that means farmers' dependence on borewell irrigation. That means they totally depend on groundwater irrigation now. Okay, now we should understand what are the reasons that are responsible for declining this irrigation system, and these reasons I have compiled from the study conducted by Girish et al. During 1997. The major reasons are magnitude of off-farm income. That means as the magnitude of off-farm income is increasing day by day, farmers have started showing a sort of inclination towards non-agricultural operations. Okay, as the magnitude of off-farm income increases, automatically they give least importance for agriculture. In the sense, they give least importance even for maintenance and management of irrigation tanks. As the groundwater availability is increasing day by day, farmers, they have started relying more on groundwater rather than on irrigation tanks. That means accessibility to groundwater as it increases, automatically importance for irrigation tank reduces. Availability of family labor and bullock labor. If it is available, then they think of maintenance and management of irrigation tanks, because using family labor as well as bullock labor, they can think of getting silt material, which used to be a nutritive element which they can supplement to their crops in order to improve the fertility status of the soil. But now we could see a sort of decline in a number of bullock labor, and family labor have started migrating. Under these circumstances, I think it is not possible to rely on what we call it as silt material. They don't want it, because on the other hand, inorganic fertilizers are made available at affordable rate, because government is providing those fertilizers at subsidized rates, and farmers, they are now relying on inorganic fertilizers rather than on silt material. And crop pattern, especially in the tank command area and the catchment area, will going to have a say on decline in the tank irrigation system. Supposing if farmers they think of cultivating water intensive crop, then tanks cannot support. Okay, tanks cannot support water intensive crops. Always it ends up in what we call it as conflict among the villagers. So the same thing has happened, because the tank irrigation is being used by farmers to cultivate water intensive crops like paddy, sugarcane, which used to be highly water intensive. Okay, farmers, they should not have to, they should have to use water in a more efficient way, which is not possible, I could say. Okay, And next factor is amount of investment by minor irrigation department for tank repairs. That means minor irrigation department, if you could see the total outlay, okay, what the government has allocated towards its maintenance, it may be repairs, okay, day by day it is coming down. Whereas the real investment made on tank, it increases, okay, it is not keeping the pace with the total budget what is being allocated for its maintenance and management. It is a big question. It is also paving a way for decline in irrigation system. Degree of community homogeneity and participation. As you know that village used to have a mixture of people. They are from different religion, they are from different they used to have different social status, they used to have different level of literacy. They cannot have a sort of homogeneity. A cooperation will always be a missing factor, and it is also one of the important reason, most important reason I could say, that if collective action has to work, means they need to have a sort of homogeneity in its management and maintenance, which is actually missing. Lack of administrative structure in provision of timely repairs and maintenance. As I have told, that means there is no proper channel through which the flow of funds should have to be on time in order to take up repairs and maintenance, which is not happening, and it is because of that reason tank system is declining. Okay. Lack of commitment among the officials. Though earlier informal institutions were there which used to be formed by farmers, it was functioning well then, because farmer used to have a sense of belongingness. That means tank belongs to us, we should have to manage, okay. They used to have that sort of feeling. But now when government has intervened in the form of discharging the responsibility of maintenance and management on the part of various department, it may be Jilla Panchayat, it may be minor irrigation department, okay, farmers have started thinking about maintenance and management of tanks, okay. But officials, they have not shown that spirit in terms of maintenance and management of tanks. They do have lack of commitment, which is also one of the important reason for declining irrigation, tank irrigation system. Okay, farmers have relegated utilization of silt for supplementing the nutrient requirement of the crop. Okay, it is also one of the reason. Age of the tank. If tanks are very old, then they will encounter frequent repairs. As outlay meant for repairs and maintenance are not provided on time, automatically it used to have that particular problem. Okay, so it is also one of the reason. And as I have told, that farmers have started relying more on inorganic fertilizer, which is also one of the cause for decline in irrigation, tank irrigation system. Okay, the type of vegetative cover in the catchment and in the encroached land. Okay, if in the catchment area, if forest trees are being planted, then it will going to ensure rainfall. It will going to avoid soil erosion. Supposing if it is having a vegetative cover with that of turf, okay, then automatically it will going to reduce what we call it as erosion from rains, and it reduces what we call it as siltation problem. But that is not the case. What farmers are doing, the vegetative cover, what they used to have in the catchment and in the encroached land used to be of commercial importance. Okay, which is also one of the reason it has increased the magnitude of siltation in the tank, and because of that reason tanks are being declined. Okay, and the size of irrigation tanks. If tanks used to be of smaller size, always there used to be umpteen scope for getting silted very soon. Since management used to be improper, automatically it will go as disappeared. Okay, size of tank will also matter a lot. Usually if you consider the stream, there used to be series of tanks in the upstreams. Usually small tanks used to be there, followed by large tanks in the downstream. Okay, in the beginning there used to be more of siltation in the small tanks, and for most of the time in a year small tanks used to be dried. Okay, and always there used to be scope for encroachment of such tanks, okay, by the farmers in the anticipation of making profit. Frequency of tank fill up, it all depends on precipitation, is it not? If precipitation used to be uniform and if it used to be of desired quantity, then automatically tank will going to fill up. Okay, if a tank fills up once in 5 years, once in 10 years, then it will going to have a negative repercussion on practice of tank irrigation system. Okay, so frequency of tank fill up, it also depends on the nature of sluices, wasteways, it may be feeder channels. Okay, if they are defective, then automatically inflow used to be very less, the storage capacity used to be very less, their reliance on tank irrigation system automatically it reduces. Deforestation in tank catchment. Populistic policies what government has formulated, that is providing land to landless, it may be weaker section of the society, it has grabbed, okay, the catchment area, which is so important for having a proper inflow to the tanks. Okay, that catchment areas have been occupied by landless and weaker section of the society, and it has been converted into agricultural lands. Okay, we could say that deforestation is one of the important problem. Okay, which is resulting in huge amount of siltation. Okay, which is a cause of concern. So what one should have to do means, now you should have to think about afforestation. It may be what we call it as catchment treatment. That means you should have to think about afforestation, social forestry. You need to have proper tree cover, okay, in the catchment area in order to get desired quantity of rainfall, in order to avoid erosion, in order to take up soil conservation practices. Okay, encroachment of tank bed is considered to be as another important problem, which is very common nowadays. Okay, farmers, once they think that if tanks are dried up, means every chance is there among the farming community to encroach it. Okay, the probable reasons for encroachment, it used to be, one is the government intervention. As I have told that once the government has intervened, the farmers, they have stopped thinking about tanks. They think that tanks will not belong to us. It is a governmental property that government should have to look after it. Okay, so they have relegated its maintenance and management. And the lack of coordination is there among the village community and what we call it as officials of various departments. It may be revenue department, it may be agriculture department, it may be forestry, it may be fishery department. They do have lack of coordination. If proper coordination used to be there, then automatically it used to click. Okay, maintenance and management might have been in a befitted manner, but it is not happening. It is because of lack of coordination among the village members and departmental officials. And farmers are anticipating that they should have to make profit out of agriculture. For that reason, what they are doing is they are indiscriminately sinking the tube wells and they are digging open wells in order to cultivate commercial crops, especially in the catchment area and even in the tank beds. Okay, which is really a cause of concern. And the non-filling of tanks is also one of the reasons for encroachment. Since tanks are not filling frequently, what farmers will do, since tanks are not being filled, it used to be dried. It will be used for cultivation purposes. The reason for non-filling, it used to be variation in precipitation, it used to be defective sluices, wasteways, it may be bunds, blockages which we used to notice in case of feeder channels. Okay, all these are the reasons which are paving a way for encroachment. And even if aged tanks used to be there, means you used to have what we call it as less storage capacity. In that case, what government used to do is they used to occupy the land which used to be adjacent to that particular tank, and they used to give compensation for the farmers. Since compensation are not being paid properly, what farmers used to do, they used to cultivate, they used to continue cultivation of crop, okay, in the tank catchment or in the tank bed. Okay, it is also one of the reason. and regularization of unauthorized cultivation of government lands with an intention of uplifting social and economic status of rural landless people is another reason, okay, for encroachment, okay. And increased dependency on borewell irrigation is also one of the reasons for encroachment. So encroachment has become a more common practice in case of irrigation tanks. It is also one of the cause for decline in irrigation system in Karnataka. Okay, a study has been conducted by Tippaya during 2006. It is all about encroachment. Okay, the study involves here what he did was he collected primary data from encroachers after developing a sort of rapport with them, because encroachers, they never used to reveal information. Is it not that I have encroached? They never say. After building a sort of rapport with them, he has elicited information from 47 tanks which spread across 17 taluks in 11 districts, which used to cover 8 agroclimatic zones out of 10 in Karnataka. Okay, and how these information, who are the encroachers, he needs to identify it, is it not? How he has identified means it is through village members only. It may be senior citizens, it may be neergantis. Neergantis means watermen, okay, who used to supply water, okay, and village accountant. From all these individuals, he has elicited information about encroachers, and finally from these 47 tanks, he has observed that 290 farmers have encroached, okay, tank, okay, 290 farmers across 8 zones. The maximum number of farmers who have encroached, you can see in case of central dry zone, 290 farmers, what they did is they encroached total land of 81.22 hectares, which used to form 6.69% of the total water spread area. That means supposing the total water spread area in 8 zones, okay, of those many number of tanks, that is 47 number of tanks. If you consider the total water spread area, it used to be 1214.19 hectares, of which the total land encroached by farmers was 81.22%, 81.22 hectares, which used to form 6.69%. Though it is less than the average, which used to be 10%. Okay, in Karnataka, supposing if you consider the overall encroachment, the percentage, it used to be 10%, which used to be less than that of average. But then also it is very significant, because encroachment, it reduces what we call it as storage capacity. As the storage capacity decreases, automatically the area irrigated by tank, it reduces. Okay, it will going to have a negative repercussion on profitability, okay, which used to be a cause of concern. Okay, next is encroachment of water spread area by the farmers. Okay, if you consider a different sized tanks used to be there. The tanks are classified into small, medium, and large based on the command area. Okay, if command area used to be less than 4 hectares, we categorize it as small tank. If it is between 4 to 40, then we call it as medium tanks. And if it is more than 40 hectares, we call it as large tanks. Remember that the small and medium tanks are managed by Jilla Panchayat, and the large tanks used to be managed by minor irrigation department. Once you look into this particular table, you could see that encroachment used to be more in case of small tanks. Okay, the very simple reason is that since small tanks used to be in the series of tanks, supposing if you consider, there used to be upstream and downstream, and usually small tanks used to be in the upstream, and they are more prone to siltation problem, and they used to be dried for most of the times. And because of that reason, encroachment used to be a more common practice in case of small tanks, whereas it used to be less in case of large tanks. Okay, you could see that extent of encroachment in case of small tanks, it used to be 21%, whereas it used to be 3.85% in case of large tanks. Okay. Now, as you have studied now, you have understood now that what has happened to the tank irrigation system in Karnataka. We could say that it has exponentially reduced as the time has passed, and we have seen even the reasons for decline in irrigation, tank irrigation system, and now we should have to concentrate more on its management. Okay, we use a term called as sustainable management. Why we are not simply saying management? Because we are using the term sustainable in the sense we are worried about our future generation. Sustainability aspect comes into picture when we think about our future generation. That means even we should have that particular resource for our generation, and even that resource should be made available to our future generation at an affordable rate. Okay, that we call it as sustainability. Okay, we need to focus more on sustainable management of irrigation tanks, because as you all know that irrigation tanks are going to have a sort of positive externality on groundwater irrigation. Okay, the management, if you consider, it will be done by governmental departments. Okay, Jilla Panchayat used to take care of small and medium tanks, and whereas minor irrigation department used to look after what we call it as large tanks. But earlier, in addition to the governmental efforts, okay, governmental department efforts, the villagers also used to extend their support. But in the present day, it is totally missing. Okay, as the tanks are common property, the tragedy of commons is bound to operate. Okay, for its sustainable management, in addition to the departmental efforts, collective action by the farmers who used to be the end users of irrigation tank is quintessential. Okay, and one other measure what we should have to think about is rehabilitation. Okay, rehabilitation of tanks should have to be done. Okay, as and when the tanks get silted up, we should have to do its rehabilitation, and you should have to see that because rehabilitation involves huge investment. Okay, how frequently that we should have to take up rehabilitation work, we should have to think in economically viable way. Okay, and one more problem what used to be there is encroachment. We should have to formulate suitable strategies how best this encroachment can be controlled. Okay, so these are the important things what we need to consider while management of irrigation tanks. One, it used to be the siltation problem. It should be resolved through proper rehabilitation programs. And another thing is that governmental departments are looking after maintenance and management of tank. But in addition to that, villagers, they need to extend their support through collective mode. And the third thing is that encroachment problem, which used to be very rampant, it should have to be reduced, and it is possible through government intervention, through formulation of stringent rules. Okay, so the management, what are all the different alternatives that we do have? How best we can think of restoring tanks? Okay, its capacity, storage capacity. Okay, the different alternatives what we used to have. One thing is that we can think of raising the surplus wear and bunds, but it used to have a sort of repercussion. Okay, the repercussion used to be the submergence of agricultural land, and it necessitates compensation to the victims. That means if we raise the surplus wear and bunds, always there used to be scope for submergence of agricultural land, which used to be adjacent to that particular tank. Okay, again we need to give compensation to those who are victimized. Okay, that used to be there. We need to think about deepening of the tank bed. Okay, the tanks what we have constructed, I think it will not going to support in order to take up this particular thing. Okay, deepening of tank bed is one of the rational solution, but we cannot think of, because the tanks what we have constructed, we never have that in our mind that we need to deepen it. We can never think of. Okay, it weakens the tank structure and it may cause leakages in its burn, as the foundation of the existing tanks are not designed for all these operations. Okay, stopping of seepage and transmission losses. At present, the 15% it accounts for. So it is one of the important problem. We need to give due consideration for it, but it used to be niche in its effect. We cannot think of this as a rational solution. That means it will going to resolve entire issue. We can never think of. Okay, clearing of obstacles in the natural drainages leading to tank and maintenance of constructed channels to ensure water supply for frequent filling of tanks during the rainy season. That means wherever natural obstacles used to be there, that has to be cleaned. It is possible, it is not that big issue, but again, it used to be niche in its final effect. Okay, that means we cannot say that it will going to resolve the entire issue. Okay, adapting better water management practices. That means we should have to educate farmers about water budgeting techniques. We should have to educate farmers about usage of water saving technologies. It may be adoption of drip, sprinkler, it may be mulching, it may be rainwater harvesting, it may be farm pond construction. All these things we need to educate. Okay, our farmers, they should have to become water intelligent farmers. Okay, that means they should have to efficiently utilize water, because water is becoming scarce and scarce as time is passing. Okay, and last option is that desiltation of the entire tank bed area without rising the bund and the waste wear. Okay, we think that it may cause displacement of encroachers. That means eviction of encroachers used to be a big problem. It needs to be ratified. Okay, so these are the different alternatives. In addition to these alternatives, as I have said, the major alternatives are, one thing is that we should have to go for rehabilitation program. Another thing is that we should have to think of having a collective action. Another thing is that we should have to control what we call it as encroachment. Okay. So first we will see that how best this collective action will going to perform. Okay, management of tanks through collective action. In most of the cases, whenever we are dealing with common pooled resources, good management is possible without privatization. That means in most of the cases, we think that if we do its privatization, then the problem will be solved. But in most of the cases, we could say that even privatization may not work. Even government enforcement may not work. But what actually works is the collective action by the users or the people. Okay, that we call it as collective action. Okay, so good management without privatization or government enforcement has resolved tragedy of commons, especially in case of tanks, I could say, through collective action. Collective action, it used to be informal institution, is it not? Here, formal rules and regulation will not be there. It used to be informal institution, which works only when members used to have a sense of community, that he belongs to the same community. That means he belongs to our village. This tank belongs to us. We should have to maintain it. We should have to manage it. That sense of belongingness the members need to have. And here, right should be given for the one who are actually deprived of. That means supposing if you do have a resource, okay, which used to be a common pool resource, all the members will not going to have a sort of access to it equally, is it not? Some may be having a better access and somebody may be having very poor access. Supposing if you consider this tank irrigation, there used to be head reach and tail reach. Head reach farmers are always, they used to have better access to water, whereas the tail reach farmers, they used to have very poor access. Equity issue used to be a problem. Now the one who used to be deprived of used to be the tail reach farmers. Now they should have to be given rights to fix the rules, how that resource should have to be used, how it has to be monitored, how the rules need to be enforced. All the rights should be given for the one who are actually deprived of. And one more thing is that collective action will going to perform only when we follow what we call it as graduated system of punishment. That means in case if anybody violates the set rules, then how they need to be punished means severe punishment we should not have to resort to. We should have to go for graduated punishment. They should not feel that a sort of severity that they should not have to feel, but it should have to create a sort of irk. Okay, that they should have to realize that they have committed mistake and they should not have to do it in the future. Okay, Elinor Ostrom, natural resource economist, who got Nobel Prize for working on this tragedy of commons. Okay, she has given several strategies how best common pool resources can be managed. Okay, the same strategies holds good in case of tank management, I feel. Okay, first thing is that we need to clearly define the group boundaries. Okay, that means it belongs to whom, who should have to use it, and how it should have to be used. That means the boundary of that particular resource and the users need to be defined properly. We need to set the rules in accordance with the local condition. That means it should have to suit to the locality. Like that, we should have to formulate the rules. Ensure that the one who are affected by the rules can participate in modifying the rules. That means the one who are most affected by that particular rules should have to be given an opportunity to modify it. Okay, make sure that rule making rights of community are respected by outside authority. That means supposing if water user associations are being formed, tank water user associations are being formed, means usually it will be looked after by whom? Minor irrigation department. That means minor irrigation department should have to respect the rules formulated by these water user association. Then only it will function. Community members can monitor each other's behavior. That means one should have to monitor others' behavior such that there should not be any sort of conflict. Okay, graduated punishment one need to follow whenever violation takes place, and accessible low cost means of dispute settlement should be employed. That means whenever conflicts arises, whenever disputes used to be there, how it should have to be resolved? It should have to be resolved locally at a least cost. Okay, build in nested tiers from lowest level up to the entire interconnected system. That means the entire system used to be interconnected. We need to have a sort of interconnectivity, and accordingly we should have to function. Okay, such that the system will going to function properly, that cooperation will going to work. So in order to demonstrate that how this collective action will going to resolve the issue of tragedy of commons in tank irrigation, a study conducted by Ravi in 2018 has been considered. Okay, he has conducted this study in a central dry zone. Okay, considering two tanks. One used to be Bukarain Kere, another used to be Ayan Kere. They are situated in Kadur Taluk of Chikmagalur district. Okay, both the tanks are managed by minor irrigation department and water user association. That you need to remember. That means tanks here, they are managed by minor irrigation department, but in addition to that, water users associations are also functioning there. Okay, because we need to reflect the importance of collective action. Okay, you could see that Bukarain Kere and Ayan Kere. Bukarain Kere used to be managed by farmers in addition to the minor irrigation department. Why it has been mentioned as farmers managed tank means here water user association used to be highly active. Whereas in case of Ayan minor irrigation department will discharge all the responsibility. Okay, that means though water user association used to be there, but it used to be passive. In the sense it used to be inactive. Okay, the command area, that is to what extent it may irrigate, means it used to be 76 hectare in case of Bukarain Kere, and in case of Ayan Kere it used to be 1574 hectare. Capacity of tank, it used to be in 1000 million cubic feet. It used to be so much. Very important thing what you need to remember is both these tanks are managed by minor irrigation department, and it used to have water user association. Informal association used to be there. Bukarain Kere is managed by Sri Siddheshwara Swami Kere Neeru Balakedarara Sangha. It used to be an active water user association. In case of Ayan Kere, it used to be Ayan Kere Neeru Balakedarara Sangha. It used to be a passive water user association. How the distribution of water will be done, it is very important. That means water is there in the tank, how it has to be distributed, who will going to facilitate it here. In case of Bukarain Kere, it will be done by water user association, whereas in case of Ayan Kere, it used to be done by minor irrigation department. That means minor irrigation department is responsible for distribution of water, okay, to farmers. Major crops in both the tanks, it used to be arkanite. Nature of water release is another important thing that you need to remember. Usually what used to be the practice is water used to be distributed from head reach to tail reach. Okay, but in case of Bukra Inkere, if you observe, it used to be from tail reach to head reach. What I have said, that means the one who used to be deprived of, they should be given rights to use. Okay, they should be given rights to set the rules. Okay, you could see that here water distribution will be from tail reach to head reach. Okay, that means equity issue will be solved here. That means water will be shared equally among the farmers of different reaches. Whereas in case of head reach and tail reach, in case of Ayanikere, again that equity issue will always be there. Okay, and here duration of water release per acre. Okay, it is very well defined. It used to be 4 hours per time. That means every time 4 hours of irrigation will be given. In case of Ayanikere, it is not defined. Okay, here irrigation charges is fixed. It is 500 rupees per acre. In case of Yenikere, it is not fixed. What we could observe is, in case of Bhukra Inkere, conflicts will not be there. Equity used to be there in case of distribution of tank water, whereas altogether reverse scenario you will observe in case of Ayanikere. Very interesting thing what you need to observe is, if you consider head reach and tail reach farmers, the net returns accrued to farmers, more or less it used to be same. Very meager difference it used to be. See here, 3,22,416 will be the returns realized by head reach farmers, and it used to be 3,14,410 by tail reach farmers on cultivating Arcanet. Okay, these are the different cropping system what they are following. Okay, Arcanet plus coconut, Arcanet plus coconut plus banana. If you could see that very meager difference is there between the head reach farmers and tail reach farmers, which clearly signals that both have got equal access to irrigation water. Okay, if you could see Ayanikere farmers, head reach and tail reach farmers, there used to be a significant difference in terms of returns realized by head reach farmers and tail reach farmers. It is because of inequity issues related to water distribution. Okay, and if you could see that water use efficiency in case of Bukra Inkere, it used to be relatively more compared to that of Ayanikere farmers. It is in terms of economic efficiency, means returns per hectare centimeter or acre inch of water. That means supposing if they use 1 acre inch of water, how much returns that they could get. Okay, that we call it as economic efficiency. Agronomic efficiency, it used to be physical efficiency, which will be expressed in physical units. Okay, that is quintal per hectare centimeter or quintal per acre inches of water. Acre inch means supposing if you irrigate, okay, 1 inch on 1 acre, we call that as 1 acre inch, or 1 centimeter of water on 1 hectare spread. Okay, we call it as hectare centimeter. Supposing if you consider both the efficiency, whether it is physical or economic efficiency, it used to be relatively more in case of Bukra Inkere compared to that of Ayanikere. It is all because of equity in a distribution of irrigation water. And if you could see the transaction cost, it is hardly 61,480 rupees in case of Bukra Inkere, and it is common for all. That means there is no difference in case of transaction cost. Transaction cost means the cost incurred by farmers in order to get that irrigation water. Okay, what are all the different cost items that they will going to incur? It includes mainly information cost, contractual cost, and negotiation cost. Okay, different cost will be incurred. You may not be knowing that, especially the tail reach farmers, if there is no proper informal association, that means if there is no informal association functioning properly, means the transaction cost incurred by them will be huge, because any time the head reach farmers and tail reach mid reach farmers, they can divert the water, okay, to their land. So they should have to keep a constant watch. Okay, they should have to keep a constant supervision that nobody should have to divert the irrigation water to their fields such that they should not be deprived of. Okay, the cost incurred towards all these are considered to be as transaction cost. You could see that transaction cost in case of INKRA, that too by trail reach farmers, it used to be 1,91,604 rupees. Huge transaction cost will be incurred by them. If not, there is no guarantee that they will going to get irrigation water in order to cultivate crops. Okay, so ultimately what I would like to conclude from this particular table is, if collective action works properly, then tanks can be managed properly. Each and every members, whether he used to be a tail reach farmer or whether he used to be a head reach farmer, both of them will going to have equal access and both of them can make profit out of it. Okay, sustainably the tank can be managed. Whereas in case of INKRA, it clearly reiterates that in the absence of proper informal association, conflicts and non-equity issues is very pronounced. Okay, next is about tank rehabilitation. Okay, okay, we will continue with that of tank rehabilitation, which is another important aspect which we need to consider, because rehabilitation involves what we call it as desiltation. That means the siltation used to be a very common problem in case of irrigation tanks, which has resulted in drastic reduction in number of irrigation tanks and the irrigation system, tank irrigation system as such. Okay, siltation, what it results in siltation reduces storage capacity. Okay, live storage capacity of irrigation tanks. If live storage capacity reduces, means automatically it will going to have a bearing on net irrigated area, even on borewell recharge. Okay, because of that reason, rehabilitation programs need to be performed frequently. Okay, in order to see that how this tank rehabilitation program will going to help, okay, in an economic way, we need to make its assessment whether is it feasible to perform rehabilitation of tank irrigation system or not. That has to be done. We will understand this with the help of an case study. Okay, for the purpose of this, we have considered a study conducted by Girisha et al. Okay, here two tanks were considered. It is covering what we call it as eastern dry zone of Karnataka. Two tanks were considered by the researcher. One used to be Muttur tank, which used to be managed by minor irrigation department. Another one is Kasarghatta. Okay, it is also managed by minor irrigation department. And Muttur tank is being rehabilitated or desilted by minor irrigation department, whereas Kasarghatta tank is desilted by voluntary organization. Okay, Muttur tank, the characteristics of this Muttur tank is that it has got 153 acres of water spread area and 61 acres of tank command area. Okay, Kasarghatta tank, it has got 5 acres of water spread area and 40 acres of command area. Okay, in Muttur tank, 1,10,164 cubic meters of silt has been excavated and it has been transported. Whereas in case of Kasarghatta, since it used to be a small tank, 13,186 cubic meters have been excavated. Okay, in case of Muttur tanks, since desiltation was done by minor irrigation department, non-involvement of villagers used to be more pronounced. Whereas in case of Kasarghatta, since it has been done by voluntary organization, involvement of village members was more pronounced. Okay, the other major problem which was observed in case of Muttur tank was the 33 acres of total water spread area. Out of 153 acres, 33 acres have been desilted, have been desilted. In the sense, desiltation has been done for 33 acres in case of Muttur tank, whereas in case of Kesarghatta, from an area of 5 acres, 2 feet have been excavated. Okay, and the excavated silt was used to an extent of 28% of the total silt excavated has been used by farmers as nutritive material in order to supplement nutrition to the crops. Okay, in case of Muttur tank, hardly 28%. Rest proportion has been dumped, okay, by farmers on the foreshore. That means on the sides of the tank. If it has been dumped on the sides of the tank, means every chance used to be there whenever rains are issued, means again that the silt may enter the tank. The very purpose of rehabilitation will be defeated. Okay, these are the issues which used to be there. These are the characteristics of tanks that you need to remember. Now, with this backdrop, we should have to understand okay, the economic benefits of this rehabilitation program in these 2 tanks. Okay, in Muttur tank, now let us consider. Okay, it used to be in terms of cost and returns, because using that particular tank, the farmers in that particular area, what they used to do means they used to perform agriculture with paddy and semi-dry crops. You could see that before desiltation, what was the scenario, and after desiltation, what was the scenario. And if we could notice incremental change, okay, what has happened in terms of area, in terms of production, in terms of profit, okay, that used to be because of rehabilitation program. Okay, that used to be the effect of a rehabilitation program. Okay, before desiltation, area under paddy was 38 acre, whereas after desiltation, 42 acres. That means increase in 4 acres was observed. Okay, in case of semi-dry crops, from 18 to 23. So total cropped area, which was 56 acres then, now it has become 65 acres. If you could see the yield realized, it was 570, that is production was 570 quintal in case of paddy. It has become 1050. What it implies? It clearly implies that water availability has increased because of desiltation. And semi-dry crop, since many crops are there, aggregation problem used to be there, we have considered it as 180 quintal. Okay, 180, and it has become 414. Okay, so the incremental income, that is net income realized because of this desiltation, was 2,77,900. Okay, that used to be the effect of a rehabilitation program. Okay, now we should understand how much cost that government, in the sense minor irrigation department, might have incurred, or voluntary organization might have incurred towards rehabilitation. And because of that rehabilitation, what may be the benefit? It may be private benefit, or it used to be the social benefit accrued to the farmers in that particular area. Okay, the total investment made on tank rehabilitation in case of Muttur was 37 lakhs. Whereas in case of Kesarghatta, it was 1.97 lakh. Okay, and since tank rehabilitation has been done, in the sense desiltation has been done, because of that, they used to get silt, is it not? And the silt will be sold, and in turn they used to get returns from its sale. Okay, we need to deduct the returns from the sale of silt from the total investment made on the rehabilitation program, which will going to give the actual investment made on tank rehabilitation, which came to around 36.24 lakhs in case of Muttur. In case of Kesarghatta, it came around 1.8 lakhs. Okay, next is, as you have understood that Muttur tank used to have command area of 61 acres. In case of Kesarghatta, it used to have a command area of 40 acres. So investment per acre of command area, it came to around 59,416 and 12,300 in case of Kesarghatta. Here, what we have assumed is the rehabilitation effect used to be for 20 years. That means once if tank is being rehabilitated means its effect will be there for 20 long years. After 20 years, we may have to think about its rehabilitation one more time. Okay. So the economic life of rehabilitation, what we have assumed is of 20 years. Okay. Why we need this means because returns accrued will be every year, and the investment made on this rehabilitation will be a one-time investment. We need to know that what used to be the cost incurred towards rehabilitation for that particular year, whether it is feasible, whether it is viable economically. Okay, we need to check. In order to do that, what we consider is we consider amortization. Okay, amortization will going to give apportioned cost. Okay, for that particular year, what used to be the cost. Okay, since that investment has been made on tank rehabilitation, which used to function for 20 long years, means per year how much it will going to work out. Okay, so amortized cost per year, it works out to 3,75,584 in case of Muttur, and it works out to 19,679 in case of Kesarghatta. And in order to maintain and in order to perform various repairs, okay, the annual expenditure what we have considered was rupees 40 per acre, which worked out to 2,600 and 1,600. And we have worked out amortized cost per acre of water spread area. Water spread area, you know that it used to be 153 acres in case of Muttur, and it used to be 5 acres in case of Kesarghatta. And accordingly, we have worked out. It will going to give a better feel. Okay, what used to be the cost per, okay, cost of rehabilitation per command area, cost per water spread area, that is tank bed area, it will going to give. What used to be most important is the extent of incremental returns realized due to this rehabilitation efforts. It used to be 2,77,900 rupees in case of Muttur. That means that much of additional returns farmers used to enjoy because of rehabilitation efforts. From Muttur tank, from Kesarghatta, it used to be 77,125 rupees. And since desiltation will be done, the live capacity of water, it will going to increase, and fishing activities can be performed. Because of that, income accrued to the villagers, it used to be 28,000, whereas it used to be 2,750 in case of Kesarghatta. And income from sales of grass on the bund, okay, it was not there in case of Muttur, whereas it used to be of rupees 175 in case of Kesarghatta. And as I have made a mention in the beginning, that since if we properly maintain and manage a tank irrigation system, it will going to bear what we call it as positive externality on groundwater. So the farmers who were reliant on borewell irrigation, they reaped additional profit because of recharge of their borewell, because of desiltation of this particular tank. Okay, because of this desiltation of these two tanks, the returns realized by borewell irrigated farmers, it worked out to 2,37,100 in case of Muttur tank. Okay, and so the net income per tank, it worked out to 1,64,816, whereas in case of Kesarghatta, it worked out to 58,771. What you need to appreciate is, the fact to be appreciated is, because of desiltation, one thing is that live capacity, live storage capacity of tank increases. Because of that reason, cultivable area increases. Production of crop increases, income accrued to farmer increases, farmer can think of performing fishery activities. From that, they could earn additional returns. And in addition to that, to other farmers who used to be adjacent to that particular tank, it will going to benefit. Not only those farmers for whom this tank is providing irrigation facility. It may be other farmers too who are far off from that particular tank. They are also benefited, because we don't know how aquifers used to be. Is it not? Supposing if we recharge our well, it is not certain that it will going to yield more water. It may recharge our neighboring farmers' borewell. Is it not? Because it all depends on the intricacy or complexities of the aquifer structure. Okay, so one thing is that that particular community will be benefited in terms of increased returns accrued because of increased area, and neighboring farmers who used to use borewell irrigation, they too will be benefited because of recharge effects. Okay, so you can easily see here because of desiltation how the groundwater has got recharged. Okay, the average yield of well before rehabilitation, it used to be expressed in gallons per hour, which used to be 500 in case of dug wells. After desiltation, it has become 808 gallons per hour. In case of duct cum bore wells, it used to be 1000. After desiltation, it has become 1493. In case of bore wells, it was 1000. Then later it has become 1350. That means as water availability increases, automatically they will bring more area under cultivation, and automatically they will going to reap more benefit. Okay. So this is what we call it as positive externality. Okay. This is the second measure or management practice what one should have to think about the management of irrigation tank on a sustainable mode. And third thing is that, as I have expressed, encroachment is one of the rampant problem. It should have to be controlled. Okay, Tippaya in his study conducted during 2006 has mentioned various measures how best it can be tackled. Okay, government what should have to do is it should have to conduct the boundary survey of tanks. Once the survey of tanks will be done, means it will going to provide us the information about the extent of encroachment, and it will also facilitate us to identify the actual encroachers. Okay, Gram Panchayats should have to be entrusted judicial power and tax and task of eviction and prevention of encroachment. Okay, village level functionaries such as village accountant, tank water users association should be entrusted the task of identifying and preparing the list of encroachers, and they should have to submit the same to the Tehsildar for eviction, because the Tehsildar will not be knowing about the encroachers, and usually irrigation department, it will not going to reveal that information. Okay, because they may also not be knowing, or they may be having a sort of what we call it as rent seeking behavior. Because of that reason, they may not reveal. Actually, the one who used to be there at the grassroots level, they should have to reveal that. And based on that, Tehsildar, he can take suitable action. That means he should have to think of their eviction only on submission of list of those encroachers. Village accountant and Neerganti have to be empowered to keep a watch on encroachments in the water spread area and inform the village panchayats or tank water users association if there are any encroachment. That means they should be given a right. Okay, erection of boundary wall or fencing of tank or digging of trenches around the tank should be considered based on the nature of the tank and local conditions. It is also one of the ways through which we can tackle the encroachment problem. Government should have to frame suitable policy in order to prohibit encroachment of tank beds, or it may be tank associated properties. The one who used to come forward in order to take care, in the sense one who would like to manage, maintain, and one who would like to prevent encroachment, They should be given the right of enjoying the usufructs of tanks. Okay, I would like to conclude that irrigation tanks, it has shown a declining trend. Is it not? Area irrigated by irrigation tanks have shown a declining trend. Now groundwater has become indispensable. In the era of climate change, groundwater exploitation is also rampant. So what farmers now they should have to do is they should have to resort to conjunctive use of water. That means they should have to resort to use of both the surface and groundwater in an efficient manner. Okay, surface irrigation in the sense maintenance and management of irrigation tanks is inevitable. If at all, if they want to recharge their borewells, that means in order to recharge groundwater, it is one of the suitable measure. Okay, so what they should have to do is they should have to put enough efforts along with the governmental departments in order to maintain and manage irrigation tanks, which will going to exert a sort of positive externality. Thereby it will going to recharge their borewells. It will facilitate agriculture in days to come. Okay, the suitable way of managing irrigation tanks used to be collective action, and it should have to be supported with the suitable rehabilitation program by the governmental departments. It may be minor irrigation department. And the forest department, what they should have to do is they should have to think of doing catchment treatment through social forestry, soil conservation measures. Okay, whatsoever lack of coordination is there between villagers and departmental officials, that has to be resolved. And the farmers, they should have to give enough importance for water budgeting. Farmers, they should have to think of adapting what we call it as water saving technologies, because water is becoming a scarce resource. Anytime it may become non-renewable resource, though it used to be a renewable resource, now the responsibility is on the ultimate users, that they should have to shoulder the responsibility of its management, and they should have to see that somehow which used to be a renewable resource, it should have to be continued as a renewable resource. We should not allow water to become non-renewable resource. If it becomes non-renewable resource, then food and fodder security will be under threat. It will going to create a doldrum in the economy. Okay, so with this, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my experience about sustainable management of irrigation tanks in Karnataka state. Okay, thank you.